look, inflation's going down, and it's going down fast. And the only thing left in CPI that's keeping it even modestly high is rent. And rents have now fallen 7 months in a row. So, but used car prices have collapsed. They've gone, to be honest, you've seen Tesla car prices. Holy crap, used car. You don't want to have to sell your Tesla. Driving it, pretty good, but don't try to sell it. But used car prices generally are down, and oil prices have collapsed and year over year had negative impact on inflation. So I think there's going to be more talk of deflation. So, one of our surprises was there's no impetus for rate cuts at all.
After grappling with persistently high inflation for over 2 years, American consumers are now witnessing a noteworthy economic trend: falling prices, albeit selectively on certain products. This deflationary trend is observable in items such as used cars, furniture, and appliances, all of which experienced significant price surges during the pandemic. Particularly impactful were the soaring prices of used cars, causing a burden for households as their values surged by over 50% in the initial 2 years of the pandemic. These recent instances of deflation could contribute to bringing the overall U.S. inflation rate closer to the 2% target set by the Federal Reserve. In response to the prolonged inflationary pressures, the central bank has implemented a strategy of raising its benchmark rate 11 times since early 2022. This move is part of an overarching plan to increase the cost of purchasing homes, autos, and other goods acquired through loans or credit, thereby affecting both consumers and businesses. Mark Yusko delves into macroeconomic indicators, expressing his perspective on the economic landscape characterized by deflation rather than inflation. He further explores key factors such as the Fed fund rate and the potential for an interest rate hike, a scenario he deems unlikely.
Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop your comment and observations in the comment section below. Thanks and enjoy the video.
That shelter component is now the largest component, and it's nosediving, and it's gonna continue. There's way too much supply, particularly of multifamily getting built. I mean, you drive around Chapel Hill where I live, thousands of apartments being built. I mean, thousands, and they're, you drive by them at night and they're just dark. So that rents are coming down, but the thing that's just not being talked about enough, the money supply growth, both in the US, but also globally, is contracting at the fastest rate ever.
Really?
Ever.
I didn't realize
we
that.
just beat the 1929 print. It is literally, it's like, through the bottom, like, of the screen, like my fingers going off the screen. I mean, it's through the bottom of the graph. And look, we needed to do that because they made a mistake in 2020. And, the cult of Keltonites, they created too much money and it went into everything, right? We've talked about this. My home did not appreciate. My home didn't get better. It actually wore out, but the price went up because the money got less good. And so they got to fix that. And I mean, again, on the way back from Pinehurst, my wife and I stopped, and we got one sandwich to split at this amazing place called Merritt's in town that does these amazing BLTs. It was $20 for one person. I mean, it was two people because we split it, but $20 for a sandwich? There's a mechanism that I can't describe well without kind of looking at a picture, but deficit spending certainly is a component. So fiscal is certainly a component of the demand for the creation of money. But the other side of it is the monetary policy, which has to do with loan demand and loan creation. Bank lending went negative for the first time in 70 years, 60 years. I can't remember the exact period. But that's a huge part of it, the money and credit creation. And then there's a multiplier effect. And again, I don't want to speak out of school because, although I do that a lot, but I'm close enough. I'll just talk about it. But here, there's so many parts to the actual M2 money supply, but a big chunk of it is you create the money, but then there's a multiplier effect because of credit, and that is collapsing. It's collapsing. And the velocity of money comes in here too, and the velocity is like plumbing new lows.
Businesses, particularly those on the smaller scale, heavily depend on a continuous influx of fresh capital to fuel their growth and expansion. This capital infusion may take the form of debt financing or equity financing, where the business sells a portion of its future to external investors. As interest rates rise, a business's borrowing capacity diminishes because the costs associated with servicing the debt take up a larger portion of its income. Concurrently, high interest rates can lead to reduced revenue for the business, as its customers often have less disposable income. This, in turn, affects how potential equity investors calculate the business's valuation, contributing to the decline observed in many technology and software stocks since late 2021. Mark Yusko delves into the intricacies of the Fed fund rate, interest rates, and expresses why he assigns a zero probability to the possibility of the Fed further cutting rates this year. His insights shed light on the dynamics at play in the financial landscape, offering a unique perspective on the potential trajectory of interest rates.
There's zero probability. And what's amazing, it's 5.5. I'm not sure how you get a half, but it's 5.5 are priced in. And starting, in March, which means every meeting in the year, there would have to be a rate cut. No way that's happening. The one that got me though, Michael, was 2024, the dot plot. So today the dot plot is perfect. We're 5.5. Okay, great. But then by the end of this year, the dot plot had spread about 150 basis points, from highest to lowest. By the end of 25, there was one governor who said, we're going to be at 5.375. And there was another one that said we're going to be at 2.375. Like, do you know something that I don't? I mean, you're telling me we need to go back to global financial crisis-esque rates within 24 months? Yet I thought we had the greatest economy ever. I thought there was no chance of recession. I mean, why would we go to 2.375? Now, unless they finally realized, we can't afford, I think the new number is $967 billion of interest on the debt this year, and 21% of the debt has to be refinanced. So that number is going to go up. So maybe that's why they're going to be forced to cut. That's interesting. So I'm going to take the under. I'm probably going to be wrong, but that's what I'm going to take. You don't have to care until you do. Right. That's the way it works. You don't care, and then you do. And that's how it's always worked. And if you go back in history, it doesn't happen very often, but those collapses, when they happen, they're ugly, right? Whether it's Weimar, whether it's, 1929 to 33, it doesn't happen very often, but yeah, it's ugly. And so, yeah, you're right. You don't have to worry that there's $34 trillion of debt. Well, it's not debt, because if you're never going to pay it back, then it's not really debt. Debt actually is an instrument that two people exchange with the expectation of paying principal and interest, right? That's a bond. That ain't what this is. This is an accounting entry that's like, just don't worry. Just don't open the closet. It's like when you have a closet that's totally full and you put the last thing in, just don't open the door and you'll be fine. But if you forget and you open the door, you're buried. And that's where we are.
U.S. consumer prices rose by 3.4% annually to conclude 2023. Marking significant progress in addressing persistently high inflation. The Consumer Price Index, which gauges average price changes for commonly purchased goods and services, increased by 0.3% in December, meeting expectations. Bureau of Labor Statistics data released on Thursday revealed that both monthly and annual numbers for December surpassed those of November, which saw a decrease due to declining gas prices. In December, gas prices remained stable, edging up by 0.2%. While rising shelter costs contributed to over half of the overall monthly increase in all items, as per the BLS report. Economists had anticipated the annual overall inflation rate to slightly rise to 3.2% from the previous month's 3.1%, according to FactSet consensus estimates. Despite the acceleration, the annual consumer-level inflation rate has significantly dropped from December 2022's 6.5%. Moreover, a crucial measure of underlying inflation, core CPI, slowed down to 3.9% annually, stepping back from November's 4%, marking the lowest annual increase since May 2021. On a monthly basis, core CPI increased by 0.3%, aligning with expectations. The implications for the Federal Reserve's rate cut plans seem mixed at first glance, showcasing the ongoing challenge of curbing inflation. However, when annualizing recent month data, the CPI report indicates continued progress toward the Fed's objectives. While the report suggests that the Fed is likely to maintain steady interest rates in its upcoming meetings, economists speculate that any rate-cutting actions may be deferred until later in the year. Share your thoughts on the possibility of sporadic rate cuts similar to last year once the Fed initiates rate reductions in the comments section below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.